Chaka Khan had walked into Andy Cohen's late-night talk show with a presence that needed no introduction. The studio lights seemed to bend toward her, catching the gleam of her bold jewelry and her iconic mane of hair. The audience clapped thunderously, rising to their feet as if greeting royalty. For many of them, this wasn't just another celebrity guest, they were in the presence of a living legend, a woman whose voice had soundtracked generations. Chaka smiled, waving with warmth, but behind that smile was the confidence of someone who had seen it all, survived it all, and wasn't about to be played for a fool. Andy Cohen leaned forward in his chair, beaming. He lived for moments like this, a superstar sitting across from him, ready to be nudged into giving headline-worthy soundbites. His brand of charm was sly and mischievous, the kind that danced on the line between flattery and provocation. Tonight, with Chaka Khan in his studio, he could almost taste the viral clip waiting to happen. The first few minutes went smoothly. Andy began with easy questions, her upcoming tour, her decades in the music industry, the songs that had become anthems. Chaka answered with grace, her wit sharp but playful. She told a funny story about a concert in the 1980s when a fan had jumped on stage and danced alongside her band until security gently dragged him off. The audience laughed, and Andy chuckled along, clearly pleased. It felt warm, celebratory, exactly what everyone wanted. But Andy was never satisfied with warm and celebratory. His formula relied on stirring the pot, poking the guest until something raw slipped out. He thrived on those moments when a famous face let their guard down or snapped back, creating the kind of TV people argued about the next day. So, after easing her in, he made his move. "So, Chaka," Andy said with a smirk, crossing his legs casually, "you've been in the industry for decades. You've worked with everyone, and let's be real, you've had your share of, let's say, diva encounters. Whitney, Aretha, Mary J. Blige, out of all the legends you've crossed paths with, who was the hardest to get along with?" The question landed like a sudden crack of thunder. The audience collectively inhaled, waiting. Some leaned forward, hungry for a name, a juicy story. Andy smiled wider, knowing he had set the stage for drama. Chaka, however, didn't flinch. Her eyes narrowed just slightly, but her voice, rich and steady, cut through the silence. "Now hold up," she said, her tone cool but firm. "Don't come at me with that messy energy. Those women, they're legends. My sisters. We've all been through the fire in this industry, and we've all earned our crowns. You don't pit us against each other just to get your little clip, Andy." The crowd erupted into applause, some even standing up. It wasn't the answer Andy had expected, but it was undeniably powerful. Andy, though, wasn't ready to back down. He chuckled nervously, playing to the cameras. "Oh, come on, Chaka, it's just for fun. You know how it is, people love a little tea." Chaka leaned back, folding her arms across her chest. Her expression was calm, but her presence radiated authority. "Fun for you, maybe. Not for me, not for us. You don't build a career tearing down other people's names. That's lazy television, Andy. And I don't play that game." The applause grew louder, echoing through the studio. Some audience members shouted, "That's right." Others clapped rhythmically, as if cheering her on. Andy's smile faltered for the first time, his confidence slipping just a little. Still, he pressed forward, trying to reclaim control. "But surely," he said, his voice lighter now, almost teasing, "there was at least one who gave you a hard time. I mean, people want to know." Chaka's hand shot up, palm facing him like a stop sign. The gesture alone silenced the room. "You want to know," she said, her voice cutting like steel wrapped in velvet. "Then write a book about your own mess, not mine." The audience roared, laughter and cheers blending into a wave of sound. Andy looked caught, almost cornered, but he tried to spin it into comedy, chuckling and shrugging as though it was all in good fun. "Wow, Chaka Khan shutting me down, huh? Guess I struck a nerve." Chaka leaned forward this time, her gaze fixed on him. "No, you struck a nerve with your disrespect. I came here to celebrate music, to talk about what I've given to this world, not to entertain your gossip circus. If that's all you want, then you don't need me." The words hung in the air like a final verdict. The audience clapped so loudly that the stage floor seemed to vibrate. Andy looked unsettled, his usual easy swagger gone. And then, with the poise of a queen who knew exactly what she was doing, Chaka Khan rose from her chair. She adjusted her outfit, smoothing it down with a deliberate calm. Every movement was precise, dignified. She turned toward the audience, her expression softening as she raised a hand to wave. "Thank you, my loves," she said warmly, her deep voice carrying across the room. "Y'all know who I am, and you know what I stand for. Always have, always will." The cheers swelled into a roar. Some audience members began chanting her name, Chaka, Chaka. The sound was deafening, filling the studio with energy that felt almost rebellious. Andy, flustered, half rose from his chair. "Chaka, wait, don't," he began, but she was already turning her back to him. Her heels clicked against the stage floor like a rhythm of defiance, each step echoing louder than words. The cameras followed her automatically, catching every stride, every wave of her hand as she made her way toward the wings. It wasn't just an exit, it was a statement. The audience, instead of being disappointed, seemed electrified. They had just witnessed a moment that was real, unscripted, and raw. Some clapped wildly, others stood with phones held high, recording every second. Andy sat back down slowly, his composure rattled. He lifted his drink and took a long sip, trying to mask his discomfort with a weak grin. "Well," he said into the silence, "that was something. The great Chaka Khan, everybody." But his words felt hollow. Everyone in that room knew what they had just seen wasn't a gimmick or a joke. It was a masterclass in dignity, a refusal to bow to the cheap tricks of entertainment. Chaka Khan had come onto Andy Cohen's stage as a guest, but she was leaving it as the undisputed owner of the moment. And as the studio buzzed with chatter, one thing was certain: the cameras had caught it all, and within minutes, the world would be watching. Backstage, Chaka Khan sank gracefully into a chair as her team fluttered around her. Assistants fetched water, a makeup artist dabbed lightly at her forehead, and her manager leaned down, whispering, "You know that's going to blow up, right?" Chaka took a slow sip of water and exhaled, her face calm. "Good," she replied, "let it. Somebody's got to remind folks what respect looks like." Her phone buzzed relentlessly. Notifications lit up the screen like fireworks. Texts from friends, calls from journalists, and social media mentions piling up by the second. She picked it up once, glanced at the flood of hashtags already trending. Hashtag Chaka walks out, hashtag respect Chaka, hashtag Queen Energy, and put it right back down with a small chuckle. "The internet works fast," she said, almost amused. Meanwhile, Andy Cohen sat under the glaring studio lights, trying to salvage the show. His audience was buzzing, their whispers carrying through the air. The control he usually commanded had slipped through his fingers. He forced a laugh and raised his glass. "Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was unexpected. The one and only Chaka Khan. What a legend." He tried to pivot into a lighthearted story, but the energy in the room had shifted. People weren't listening the same way. They were still replaying what had just happened, whispering to one another, sending texts under their seats. Andy smiled, but it was a smile stretched too thin, as if even he knew this wasn't his victory. By the time Chaka left the building, the moment was already spiraling across the internet. Clips of her standing up and shutting Andy down hit Twitter within minutes, some captioned with fire emojis, others with bold words like iconic and queen behavior. Fans who had been in the audience uploaded their own shaky videos, showing the crowd cheering, chanting her name, the electricity of the moment unfiltered. Morning shows caught wind before dawn. Chaka Khan walks off Andy Cohen's show after calling him out for disrespect, one headline blared. Entertainment outlets ran with it, looping the clip endlessly with dramatic commentary. Was Andy out of line? Did Chaka overreact, or was this a moment of truth television has been needing? The response was overwhelmingly in her favor. Artists and celebrities weighed in one by one. Questlove tweeted, "That's how you do it. Don't let folks play with your name. Salute, Chaka." Missy Elliott posted, "Queen Energy crown fire been giving us greatness for decades, still standing tall." Fans of all ages chimed in, many of them young people discovering her catalog for the first time. Spotify reported a sudden spike in streams of Ain't Nobody, I'm Every Woman, and Through the Fire. Chaka's manager couldn't stop grinning. "You know what this means, right? Your tour sales are about to go through the roof. People are going to want to see you live. You just reminded the whole world who you are." But Chaka wasn't smiling for business reasons. Her joy was quieter, deeper. She had drawn a line and defended not just herself, but every woman who had ever been reduced to gossip for ratings. "I didn't walk out for clout," she said softly, leaning back. "I walked out because sometimes you've got to shut the circus down. Music is what I came to share, not mess." The next day, Andy Cohen addressed the controversy on his radio show. His voice was measured, contrite in a way people weren't used to hearing. "I just want to say, I pushed too hard last night. I crossed a line with Chaka. She's a legend, and I should have respected that. My job is to entertain, but sometimes I forget there's a difference between fun and disrespect. I regret how it went down." The apology didn't land with everyone. Some fans accused him of saving face only because of the backlash. Others praised him for owning up. Either way, the conversation was bigger than him now. It wasn't about Andy Cohen. It was about Chaka Khan and the statement she had made. Articles flooded think piece websites. Chaka Khan reminds us why dignity still matters in pop culture, entertainment versus exploitation. Where do we draw the line? Panel discussions aired on morning news programs, with commentators noting how rare it was to see a celebrity refuse to play along with the talk show formula. One journalist put it simply, "She didn't just walk out. She walked tall, and she shifted the power dynamic in that room." For younger generations, the walkout was a revelation. Many of them had known Chaka Khan by name but not by legacy. Now, they dove into her history, her Grammy wins, her groundbreaking career, her voice that had influenced Beyoncé, Whitney Houston, and countless others. TikTok flooded with edits of her singing, paired with captions like, "This is the woman who put Andy Cohen in his place." A whole new wave of fans was being born, drawn in not just by her music but by her fearlessness. In the weeks that followed, Chaka's tour tickets sold out faster than expected. Promoters scrambled to add more dates. Interviews poured in, every outlet wanted her, but she chose carefully, granting time only to those who respected her artistry. When asked about the infamous walkout, she never dragged Andy by name. Instead, she said the same thing each time, "I know who I am. I know what I've given. And I won't let anybody make me small for a cheap laugh." The dignity of her response only amplified her power. She wasn't feeding the fire, she was standing above it, unburned. Andy, on the other hand, continued to feel the sting. For a man known for controlling interviews with wit and chaos, being publicly humbled by a legend was a bruise to his reputation. He worked overtime to smooth things over, booking other high-profile guests, making light-hearted jokes at his own expense. But the internet never forgot. The clip lived on, shared over and over, a permanent reminder of the night Chaka Khan walked off his stage. Months later, during the first concert of her sold-out tour, she addressed the incident briefly. In the middle of her set, after belting out through the fire to a screaming crowd, she paused, looked out at the thousands of faces, and said, "Some people asked me why I walked off that stage. The answer's simple, because I could. Because I should. And because no one gets to rewrite my story but me." The arena erupted, fans screaming and applauding until the sound shook the walls. It became more than a walkout. It became a symbol, a reminder that fame doesn't erase humanity, that legacy demands respect, and that true power isn't about staying seated when someone tries to diminish you, it's about standing up and walking out when the line is crossed. As one viral tweet summed it up perfectly, Chaka Khan didn't just leave Andy Cohen's show. She left with her crown, her dignity, and the loudest applause of the night. That's what real legends do.